Hello everybody and welcome to this process demonstration how I would approach creating concept sketches for an exhibit design using the Concepts app and also 3D modeling. In my case, I would use, for example, Blender or Shaper 3D. The main goal of this lecture is to give you an idea of how best mix actually two-dimensional sketching and 3D modeling. Because again, as a designer, we're not making art. We want to very quickly visualize an idea and tell a story. So let's take a look actually at these sketches first. This one, as you can see, is extremely loose. At the bottom, there's a plan view. On top, there's a perspective view. But the thing is, we can see literally everything. I make a new layer. For example, now there is a human figure. There are some bar stools. Here's a cubicle thing with a TV and a keyboard or something like that. If we go to the sketch, you also can pretty easily instantly see what this is. So there's some sort of maybe a curved back wall. There's some curved furniture. On top, there is a circular arrangement of spotlights. There are displays on the right wall, and there are two rectangular columns with some cutouts on the left side. Now, these sketches are a little bit more detailed. But also here, if you take a look at, things are very simplified. Now, for example, the humans are very simplified. And what makes actually these sketches also work so well is here, this is very good to see, is the amount of lines and sketches you put down, the variation of thin and thick strokes, and then also all these hand annotations that are really explaining everything. Now, one of the main reasons why I like Concepts so much for sketching compared to programs like Procreate or Sketchbook Pro is specifically when we do plan views, elevation views, or isometric views, I can work with dimensions. I'm also very good at 3D modeling, which is why I can also 3D model a space initially, block it out like this, because then I also can import a human figure, move the figure around, and then I can prototype how many people can actually fit onto that space, which then is very useful to understand what type of activities can we do. Okay, so I go back to here again, very loose sketch. The plan view is really interesting. The perspective view is quite nice. And again, what makes this really attractive is the amount of lines, how sketchy it is, the variation between thin and thicker lines, all the annotations, and so forth. So these sketches should not take you 3-4 hours. They should maybe take you 10-15 minutes. And specifically when we can also mix this with a 3D model underlay, this is then very easy to do. The nice aspect of using 3D modeling as an underlay and then sketching over it is some things are easier very quickly to sketch or block out, specifically when we work also in plan view, elevation view. Because at the beginning we use sketching to very quickly ideate, explore an idea, and also tell the story. And this type of loose sketching also helps viewers to envision more, to imagine more how something could be. If you give them instantly a perfect 3D modeled rendering, they might say, hey, I like this design, and your job is finished. You're kind of like putting yourself out of work with that approach. Okay. Here is a pretty detailed sketch. I use this one also because I found this mix of bringing in photos, distorting them perspectively, putting in human figures for scale as gray silhouettes, and then also using kind of like watercolor marker and pencil to sketch this out. It's really quite nice. And you see these jiggle lines, for example. For giggles, if you go to YouTube and you Google how to sketch like an architect, You will find a lot of videos where they say, well, architects, nah, they don't draw this way. They just draw this line jiggly on purpose because this way they can hide that uh, their line is crooked. This is something you can do too. I mean, but also there you see, it's a really nice mix of thicker lines and thinner lines, highlighting the hierarchy, what's an object, what's a different object, and so forth. This is another actually really nice simplistic sketch with minimal use also of colors. Later, when we use AI rendering or 3D rendering, we're going to texture everything and are going to be very specific at the beginning. It might not really make that much sense to be that specific. Something like this is totally sufficient. And here again, the chairs and furniture sketched in very loosely. Yeah, no, it goes pretty fast. It takes a few strokes. Having to 3D model that is taking a little bit longer. And this one here is also really quite nice, just as a reference how pristine something can look when they are created a little bit more detailed. There's a lot of this marker background coloring, which I find honestly more distracting because here I think there is something happening, but it's just background stuff. So we'll probably not have done that. Something like this is just cleaner. But anyway, it's a nice, cleanly executed sketch, also with the color hierarchy, the floor, the furniture, the the branding, and so forth. Very good. Okay. Now, before I continue, I would also like to talk about bubble diagram or plan views because these sketches, for example, just show you maybe how the space looks, but they don't necessarily show you how the space functions. And when we send something to a client to review and it's just an image, we also need to add annotations or draw in zones or draw in walk paths so people can understand how the traffic on such an exhibit booth, for example, would take place. This one here, you see, is three-dimensional and it shows kind of like with the blue people going in yellow, that's kind of like circular, and the green seems to go to different areas and out. This is more three-dimensional, and here, for example, is something two-dimensional. So this bubble diagram comes also from architecture and interior design, talks also about how different rooms, for example, can be accessed. In a small exhibit design booth, we don't necessarily have rooms, but we have zones. And also the surrounding of the booth is also important. So just as an idea how this could work. Really important in the takeaway is the use of arrow bands and also color and calling out what these areas are. Okay, very good. So how would I start? We would like to present everything at one point on a sheet of paper or PDF, digital or physical. So I can make here an artboard, 8.5 by 11, but I would like that one to be landscape. Very good. I have all my pens here set up. I'm actually dimension wise working. Oh, hold on 1 second. I made a mistake. Ooh, there we are. I work with inches and the scale is 1:1. Now we're going to adjust this in a moment. And again, this is actually also the cool thing about concepts because I can sketch everything with a scale factor. That's really good. And I can work on different layers and block everything out. So I have here a pretty thick pen. The same pen, I have then half the thickness and even nearly no thickness. So now when I zoom in, you see there are different line weights. You can also play with different transparency. So for example, that these really thin lines are just even thinner and they're transparent, more like underlays. And then maybe a dotted line, a mesh line. I have here the text tool. Also, this is kind of like very often how I set everything up. So I have my 4 or 5 different pens and or drawing tools all preset. Okay, you see here I have these different views of that space. It is, in this case, a 20 by 20 by 20 cubicle volume we can work with. Let me go for a moment to Shaper. So here we are in Shaper. You see the space. I created a base. I created kind of like an like 2 walls with a ceiling, and then there is some sort of a kind of like a handrail protection. Everything is blocked out, very cubical. Furniture, podest, objects, everything can be just simply blocked out by very simplistic geometry because I want to very quickly visualize before I get detailed how much space do I even have. And this is something, as you can see, quite nice. So it's a 20 by 20 footprint. In Viscom AI, I made myself this business person and I brought her in. And you can then see how many people, for example, on that surface could go. Actually, quite many. So 20 by 20 is quite a space. If I take her and say so, let's say horizontally, how many people could go in there? There's the linear piece there. Let's say that's the total. 6, 8. Yeah, 8 actually fit in there. 8, 16, 24, 32. Oh yeah, oh, it's actually, we can put a lot of people in there, but I mean, this is already getting really, really, really full. Well, I'm just goofing around as it looks, but this is really something to start first. Now, make yourself a base. So, how do we actually do this? So let me very quickly show you. Again, everything is meant to be fast. Details, perfection, that comes later. So I make myself a sketch here first. I will switch to feet. That is then 20 feet. Both lines are equal. There it is. Perfect. And then this I will bring down by half of a foot. Like so, 6 inches. That's the base, for example. Very good. Now I go to the front, make myself another sketch. Here goes a line up. Oh, that's actually 20 and 20 and 20. Perfect. They're all equal and they're all horizontal. And that one is 20 feet. So if I now, at this point, for example, now bring in a human figure. I'm on the iPad. I copied the STL model from Shaper, exported out of Blender to my iPad, put this onto my iPad as a storage, and here she is. Comes in as meters, Blender works as meters. Perfect. Very good. There she is. I will rotate here, so when I go to the front view, I see her. Now here again, now I can see, so 1, 2, so kind of like 3 people above, but we don't want to have a floor that is at 7 feet. But we also have 20 feet height, so maybe we just do this at the middle. the sketch which I created is more really like a helper. So I can create a new sketch, and then here I draw something up. Let's say this goes 10 up because that is then the max. 10 over, 10 down here. And while I do this in Shaper, you can use whatever program you want to use. SketchUp, Blender, 3D Max if it has to be. There. Okay. And then I will shell this for a second to give this a nice material thickness. Let's say, this is kind of, no, I would like to go to inches there. 10 inches. Is it 10? Yes, it is 10. Cool. And isolate. Very nice. Now you see this actually already. Maybe I select her, go to the side view, make a copy, bring her to there. So there we have somebody. And I will hide this for a second. Good. So you see, I basically established the ground plane and the top. And maybe here I will extrude this one up. And we didn't really talk much also about construction codes and norms. So for example, we would need to Google how high is a handrail. So let me quickly Google this. Handrail height. So they say 34 to 38 inches. Okay. So I'm at 36, so this is actually good. Then these two faces I will select and shell 5 inches for the thickness. Beautiful. Cool, huh? So there we see this. Okay. To create, let's say for the person below, a pottist, I make a sketch. Here's a circle, and then 36 was the handrail, 38. Yeah, so we make this, for example, a little bit taller. The nice thing about drawing in plan view and elevation view, now everything will be very easy to do. We can just trace the stuff. And if we want to do an isometric view, then we simply go into an isometric view, which I have here. Very good. Then we simply go to in Shaper to export. And in other programs, now you go to the different views and then go render your images out as screenshots. So create screenshot, no grid, no transparency. And now I could make a photo. Let's say here, capture, and go to the side, capture. I actually know I want this to be nice and big. Also here from the front, nice and big. Then top, nice and big. And here the side, trying to fill actually that document there. Okay, let's go back to concepts. So backend concepts, and then I will on this layer I have here, for example, Shaper 3D, I will now import the individual photos. So that one comes in, tab, and photo, next one, and tab, photo, next one, and tab, and one more photo, this side. Very good. Perfect. Cool. So right now, this object is 20 by 20 by 20. This is actually really good. This is a page. So this is actually, the images are too big. I have here also a photo of a visitor. I move her to the side, and then with the lasso, I will select all these images, rotate off, stretch is on. I scale this one down and move these images to different locations. So here I will make the width the same. So this way I know the images to each other are very close. And then I can see, so I have one view, one view, one view, one view. Yeah, that could roughly fit. I make them a little bit smaller because I need also space for annotations, etc. And the cool thing with concepts is later when we export everything out, we can export as JPEG, PNG, PDF, PSD, and so forth. We can export only the screenshot, the drawing, or whatever. Perfect. So I could start sketching at this point, but what I rather would like to do now is to measure everything I have a little bit. So I will turn the measure tool on. I will go to a pen. I would like to have not isometric, but the dot grid. I will snap to align to grid. And for example, I go to here and then I start drawing a line and I'm just trying to see what it tells me. So this is, or is 3 inches. Yeah, somewhere there was 3 inches. Okay, so that means if I now go to my preferences and where scale, I could say, so 3 inches. Nope, that's the wrong letter. So 3 inches in real life should be 240 inches. Enter. So it's actually 1 to 80. Very good. So when I select this one, yep, 247. So I have a scale established. So this helps me now because, whoops, I only wanted to delete actually these lines. Because the scale is established, I can now go ahead and sketch everything out. I have the grid, dot grid. This helps me now very easily to, without having to use a ruler, I'm going to make a new layer. And on this layer, actually, hold on, I will move this one down to this grid. This one I move down to this grid. And this one I move to there. So I have a little bit of space because don't forget, here is kind of like this border. And it's also very good when you sketch, you align everything this way. So on a new layer, this is then when I can start using sketching to ideate. For example, I haven't built any stairs. So now the question is, okay, do I do the stairs going down? I might want to use the line tool for this. I can turn on the rotate function, scale, and maybe go to here and then just say, roughly there, maybe something goes down, or now this then means somewhat here the stairs basically would, I just start sketching these things in. And now the snapping tool is turned on. So look how quickly you can ideate something like this. This is what I mean in terms of sketching. You can't model that fast. That's actually true. So lasso only on this layer. I select all this. This needs to be a little bit corrected, maybe there. And then I snip this one off. Beautiful. Kind of cool. For the isometric, now I don't necessarily know the dimensions. So I have to turn on, in this case, the isometric grid. There we are. And we do every grid, let's say, oops, 1 second. Kind of like 1 foot. And then I will draw a line. Draw this line. And when I select this line, and then with the finger press and hold on the dimension, it should be 240. And then I can scale it actually. So that's actually now how big this isometric view now has to be scaled up. Plus minus now. Cool. Okay. Everything is maybe getting a little bit too big. But now, because this is also isometric, the advantage of this is now I can just start sketching everything really nicely out. So I need to have a little bit of an opening, for example, there and there and there. Actually, I don't want to have something there. This goes down over here. This goes to there and there. This will here continue. This goes to somewhere there. Okay, now I see where this actually ends. And then I can select these parts and remove them. Yeah, that's the reason also why I say there's no excuse anymore not to do sketching. Some students might say, oh, but I can 3D model faster. Yeah, I love 3D modeling myself, but in the industry, no matter what industry you're in, this type of very quick concept sketching is crucial to have in your portfolio. It looks also very good when you can then present actually how you very quickly ideated your design. Now you see, for example, this is one version. I can make a copy of this, move this to somewhere else. In concepts, I don't really need to align it to the grid, for example. It's not really that necessary. I will now go ahead, make this 100% line so I can draw myself kind of like this ramp, bring this to here. Now, there you see this. This is kind of like where, for example, the stairs would be. I could then draw in the stairs, or I might even say, actually, what about if we do this differently? So all this goes here. I will remove actually these lines. This actually goes back. I want to turn on isometric and turn the smoothing off. And I will now undo this again. Let's say till there. So that is going to be my ramp. So I make a copy, or move this to there, then make a copy, move this to there. Okay, now there I can see actually the ramp, turn the grid back on. Then I could say when this goes on, they actually fall directly off. That's a little bit silly what I just did. I will scale this a little bit, bring this to here. This should work. I think plus minus that roughly should be fine. And then I very quickly sketch in my stairs. Look at that. All these were helpers. They go. Clean this up. There. No? So now somebody can see, oh, I see. This actually should be an interesting handrail or something. There and there. You see how that I do not draw everything super clean, or if a line is wrong, I don't correct it. Leave these extra lines in. And then later we can just go ahead and select stuff what we don't need and remove it to make sure that there is no confusion. Okay, perfect. Now everything here was drawn also using the isometric grid. If we turn on this here, then it is the plan view or elevation view. I also have here my human figure. I will bring her to here. Then I will scale this so this looks kind of okay. Fine. A human I put onto a new layer. Let's say this layer I call building, or we'll give it a name that makes sense to you. Humans. And then the same way would be display, annotation, merchandise, and whatnot. Very good. So on this humans layer, I could very quickly, maybe with this sketch here. Oh, this is a really thick line. The grid is on. This is too thick. Oh yeah, because I am zoomed in so much. Okay. I might have to change this later, but that's fine. You see how I am really not paying much attention to capturing all the details. Try to draw fast. And when you say, oh, my stuff looks terrible, get over it. Continue. Because chances are very high that later, when this is all done, in its sketchy way, it's actually fine. Trust me. And also, drawing this quick way uses less time. That's one thing. So it helps you to draw also faster. Ooh, this foot, no. There, a little bit of order we need. But it helps you then not spending too much time on these types of exercises. So there, now she's wearing a belt or something. Cool. There you see, no? If we zoom out now, that's fine. Logically, when we really zoom in very closely, now we see there might be some sort of an issue. So on this layer, I will go ahead and select that, delete selected photo. Actually, I only want to select her. Yeah, don't put photos above each other. It can be complicated to move them around. Very good. Alternatively, the other option would be to then go ahead and maybe here, I will try to do this all in one line. And then I will turn this into a fill tool. Oh, where did my line go to? Okay, one more time. I'm trying to be very fast now, just to make this video a little bit shorter for you. So what is going on? Maybe it's my palm rejection. Okay, no, I must have actually been my palm rejection. No, only my pen is touching it. And then I go back to the start. And the trick there is now that this outline I drew, I changed the tool for this object to be a fill. There. Pretty cool, no? This object is on the wrong layer, so I moved this onto the human layer. Ta-da! I can go to humans and move this around. It's a little bit too solid, so I make this more transparent. So this way, for example, you can then very easily create these figures. Perfect. Okay. So I hope that this quick demo, while speedy in its nature, showed you a little bit the advantage of using concepts and mixing this also with a three-dimensional model, only model it out to a certain degree. And then isometric and orthographic, so plan elevation view, you can then just do these sketches. Don't overcomplicate things too much. Really make good use of layers to split everything apart. So later, then it's very easy to select individual elements, for example, the humans or just the buildings, and so forth. Okay, very good. Now, and then with a little bit of time and dedication, then use these other images also as a style reference. You can get to something similar to them. I just realized I forgot to also talk about how to draw shapes which are not part of the grid, plan view, elevation, or isometric. And it's actually very easy. For example, with the furniture here we have. So I would like to create a very quick study of 2-3 different variations of this cylinder. So I can activate my drawing tool, which I would like to use. Then I will turn on the guides. I have, for example, here an ellipse tool. And then with 2 fingers pinching, rotating, I can move this around. To zoom in, we have to turn the guide off and then turn it back on. And you see there are these dots. With a finger or pencil, press and hold, and then you can rotate this and perfect it. No, I don't want to draw. Not yet. This point has to go to there, and these have to be horizontal and isometric. Cool. And then I can simply draw over it, and there's my really nice ellipse. This one I could select, make a copy, bring this down to there, go here. Actually, then that might be again a moment to, if I want to, turn the grid actually back on. Use this tool, clean this up a little bit. There. Let's make a variation. Copy, bring this over there. That is number 1. These I will delete. This one, let's say that goes like an offset. Here again, because it's at an angle, I could use the guideline or draw a line and rotate it. Actually, here I can select this one, copy, rotate on, and then I just rotate with 2 fingers and put this into position. There. Cool. Let's copy, make another version of that. I would like to see how this would look with arced sides. So I will turn on a little bit of smoothing. Oh, that's the wrong pen. So go like maybe this way. Then I can select this, copy, mirror over, so I don't have to draw this twice. It looks like a Coke glass, for example. Make a copy, move this to somewhere else. Can I invert it? No, that's kind of like the same. What about this idea was actually not bad, but maybe this is more going this way. Yeah, that curve was nicer. Copy, flop over, on there. No, you see how easy that is. And again, you can't 3D model something this fast. The point of exhibit design is also not to download 3D models which are pre-made. That's staging, that's not design. We really want to be creative and plan everything out, and ideally custom design order the furniture. So this was something that's just kind of like you saw. I used the grid, or used the guides, or you used then freehand drawing for that. The last thing maybe also to cover is then how do we do annotations. There are some interesting tips to it. When I go back to here, you see all these annotations. No? They look quite nice. And then we have straight lines or typical ID crazy gibber lines. What you want to use is really up to you. I have to say I'm more a fan of straight lines, because here I really look at the arrows or these curves, and then the handwriting, that is really important. So let's say I go to here, annotations. So I make two things first. Maybe this one. Let's see, that's good. Okay, I will make myself a nice line. Let's say like this, and then I will rotate around, let's say here, and create myself an arrowhead. Cool. Okay. So that's good. The thing is, I would keep this separate, select this and group it, because now I have a standardized arrowhead. I could also make this a little bit longer like this. Maybe clean this up a tick more. There. Sweet. Yeah, this is really good. For writing, I will go to the grid, but actually use graph paper. Yeah, graph paper, and that is good. I'm going to write somewhere. So I'll go to here. This has a little bit of smoothing, that is fine. And then let's say I will write here. Oh, the grid is turned on, but don't snap. Take the time to write this nicely. Handrail, stairs, ugh. Ugh. Better. There, very good. And maybe I can do one more. Let's say platform. Two fingers, double is undo. Very good. So because I wrote everything in one position, it's very easy to make sure this is all the same size. You can logically also use the writing tool if you want to. But this is just text, and doesn't really look as good. And we can't select any fonts or something. And there you see that. So kind of like our handwriting is really nice. It's very unique to us. So now I, for example, don't want to write anymore. Just go to the pen tool, lasso. I select this, maybe group it so all the elements for the text are grouped. I can just select this group, go to here, go to maybe here and stairs. So I make a copy and maybe rotate that to there. That angle is nice, so I'll make a copy of that arrow. This one maybe, oh, the scale was turned on. So rotate off the stretch. Okay, that's similar now. So be careful. Make a copy, bring to here, stretch off, rotate on. Copy, bring this over to here. These two are just dummies, and then I can select this one and say number 1 and number 2. That means here you can go to there, and then I position these things nicely. Maybe zoom in. It's easier to move. There. And you see, a little bit of order, a little bit of pre-planning, and then your stuff is really nice. Last thing maybe to talk about, I'm drawing this really funny shape because I only want to select the groups for the text. This then later can all be themed. So for example, they all get a color, get a different gray value. If I want to change the line weight, there you see how this can all be adjusted afterwards. Pretty cool. And this way you really make sure all handwriting is exactly the same way styled. Okay, that's it.